Hi, I'm Georgia Carroll, and this week on our Family Law A to Z series, I'm going to be speaking about words starting with the letter P. So, in particular, we're going to focus on parenting this week. So that takes up about, I'd say, at least 50%, if not more, of our matters here at Southern Waters, and probably in any family law practitioner's practice. And that's because basically anyone that has children needs to work out what to do with the children and their parenting arrangements following their separation. So in parenting matters, the general principles are that whatever decisions are made need to be made in the best interest of the children. Now, I've spoken about that as part of our words starting with the letter B before. However, just to quickly recap, the main factor is that a child should have a meaningful relationship with both parents. However, that's tempered by ensuring that a child is protected from any risk of harm that exists at all. Now, there's a whole range of other factors to consider as part of the best interests of the child principles that are outlined in Section 60cc of the Family Law Act, and I encourage you to look at my other vlog on best interests of the children if you want some more information in that regard. However, I'm going to focus now a little bit more on a couple of other things to talk about with respect to parenting. So in parenting matters, one of the other main things that we look at, other than time, because that's obviously the most common thing. People go, what time am I going to spend? I want equal time, or I want to have each alternate weekend or whatever with the kids. We know that you work it out between yourselves more often than not, but when you can't do that, there's a couple of other factors that come into play. So one of the big decision-making components in parenting matters comes down to what's called parental responsibility. So parents, in and of themselves, just by virtue of being a parent, and this occurs even pre-separation, is that you have something called parental responsibility. Now, parents often say, well, what are my rights as a parent to my children? And the answer is, well, parents actually don't have any rights, which is often surprising for a lot of people. Instead, what you have are these obligations. So one of your obligations is this parental responsibility. You have an obligation to make decisions and care for your kids. So parental responsibility deals with major long-term decisions impacting upon children. So one of the main components of that is the name of a child, the education of a child and decisions relating to that, medical decisions relating to children, where they live insofar as it impacts the ability to spend time with the other parent, and also matters relating to religion and culture. So what the law says is that pre-separation, you have, and post-separation prior to orders, you have as a parent intrinsically of your own right, what is called joint parental responsibility with the other parent. Now, the way that that operates is actually joint and or several. So you can make decisions together or separately. And this is often where a lot of issues arise in parenting matters, when one parent unilaterally makes decisions about those major long-term decisions without advising or at least consulting with the other parent. So what we have when you go to court are two options with respect to parental responsibility. So the first is equal shared parental responsibility, and that is the presumption at law, which in effect means that is, unless there are exceptional factors as to say otherwise, that is what should prevail, and that's the assumption that the court's going to take, that you're going to have that. Or there is sole parental responsibility. So focusing on equal shared parental responsibility, which I'd say occurs in at least 90% of cases, because it is the presumption, that requires parents to consult one another with respect to those major long-term issues and come to joint decisions. And if they can't, there's a requirement that you mediate, and then one of you will commence proceedings, unfortunately, if you are unable to resolve that particular issue. Now, in relation to sole parental responsibility, that is, as it is against the presumption at law, that only occurs in circumstances where there are issues of relating to drugs or alcohol, and that they may impact a parent's ability to make those decisions. In other cases, it may be that because that particular parent hasn't played a role historically in making decisions and hasn't been very involved and doesn't look to be very involved moving forward. So they're the kind of two options with respect to equal shared parental responsibility and sole parental responsibility. So one final thing on parenting is that, and I could talk about this all day, as my clients know, but one final thing I'll mention is when you do reach an agreement with respect to parenting, there's 3 ways in which you can document it, and this is really important for all clients to know. So the first is when you first separate, you kind of have this ad hoc arrangement where you're going, oh, like, we'll do it this week and we'll do that this week, and then we kind of work it out between ourselves, and then it works until it doesn't work, which sadly enough tends to happen at some point down the road. Now, when that happens, you'll come to us as lawyers and we'll say, okay, well, if you're able to, fortunately, be able to reach an agreement, whether that's by way of attending family dispute resolution, mediation, or just in discussions, the two ways you can document it, other than that ad hoc arrangement, is by way of what's called a parenting plan or court orders. And those court orders can be by way of consent or contested if you go to court about it and can't agree. So I have spoken about each of those particular types of documents in other vlogs, the parenting plans previously with respect to children, and the orders in the orders section. So feel free to look at those blogs if you want to know more. Otherwise, please send through any comments or questions that you have